So I think a really important bit there is to understand where the reward lies in those good and bad habits, because often we can think of it's really hard to break a bad habit if you don't understand where it comes from or where the reward.
It's the classic like KFC guilt, right? You want KFC, you have that reward immediately, and then you got the guilt after. You're like, oh no. But it's and taking that one step further, generally what we see with good habits and bad habits is bad habits, you see the reward, you see the immediate feedback straight away. Like if you want to drink a beer, you get that immediate feedback of, oh, this beer's great. But obviously the long term is it's not great for your health. Whereas flip it for a good habit, you read a book, you're not going to see that intelligence straight away.
We're all part of this whole money game. This whole...
Welcome back to another episode of Beers and Business. I'm Abe Dearmer, CEO over at Appsembler.
And I'm Andrew Martin, CEO over at Teamgate CRM. And let's start how we should start. We always skip this bit. Cheers,
there we go. Cheers. Episode 11. Good one today. Talking about habits, like drinking beer.
Drinking beers at
every
10
Tuesday at 10 a.m. How good.
Probably a bad habit, but we'll get to good.
No,
habits,
this is the reward, mate.
That's you're right. You're right. This is the reward for the painful habit of speaking with Abe. So today's reward is the Sally IPA. I think I've run out of characters.
You go first
from
this time. I've gone first all the time. Yeah,
I think I've run out of characters from your mates. So Sally IPA, which is I believe the last beer. They are releasing a lager, a Queensland lager, which I thought would be out this week because State of Origin is on Wednesday. So I think they've missed a massive opportunity there to launch a State of Origin. So I went into
maybe they just know the results, so they're not concerned about it.
Yeah, well, maybe they'll release it the day off, but who knows? But yeah, I got Sally IPA. I'm not a massive fan of IPAs generally, but it's not bad. What are you drinking?
Well, today I have a Schwarzbier, a dark lager, and this one here is crafted with fine European malts. This dark lager ticks all the boxes. Light, roasty characters abound. Roastery. Complementing the low, noble qualities of New South Wales hops. Noble qualities of New South Wales, mate. Bready and satisfying in the style of authentic German lager and driving to a dry finish. It's a classic continental charmer of the first order. Can't really read today. What are we looking at? 1.4 standard drinks. That's not bad. It's not bad. Limited release, though. So
I like the can.
Get that in you. It's a nice can, isn't it? They actually do a really good job with their cans. I think they're simple enough, but they are pretty easy on the eye. So let's see what the taste looks like. It's good.
Nice cup, mate.
Charlotte wouldn't be able to break this one. Nice coffee notes. It's dry. Yeah, it's good. I like it. Well done. Well done, Reckless. Smashed it.
Nice. For Sally's passion for Australia's backyard is no secret. A bold explorer of nature, she's always pushing the horizon for botanical beauties. I can't read it. Rain or shine, it's always a good time with your mate, Sunshine Sally. So
Sunshine Sally. I've heard a few Sunshine
It's a bit fruity. It's a bit fruity. It's easier to drink than the hazy IPA that I had a couple of weeks ago. But
is that because that was at like 5 a.m.?
6%, 1.8 standard drinks.
Mate, I'll tell you what, your mates really know how to make a strong beer.
And but very smooth, like surprisingly, and not as punchy as most IPAs usually are. I really don't like IPAs.
Hold my comment.
So I was not looking forward to drinking this, but it's actually not bad. And I think if my wife tastes this, she'll probably drink the rest of them. So I've got to keep her away.
Oh, beautiful, mate. Beautiful. All right. Well, today is it's a really good day, and I feel like I want to just jump straight into it because there's a whole heap to cover and a lot of value. And this one here is not just this is for everyone, right? This is for young people who want to make changes in their lives. This is for people who are well established, people who have lost their way, previously might have been motivated and need a bit of a kick up the arse. But I think let's start it off with our weekly wrap up and then we'll get into quotes, and then we'll kick on and talk about habits. So, Andrew, what did you learn this past week?
My learning of the week, it came from my favourite rugby league team. I'm just going to turn my volume down. My favourite rugby league team, the Melbourne Storm. So some interviews have come out recently, some insights into their culture and their winning ways over the last few years, who've obviously been a very successful
break the salary cap. That's their winning ways.
Rugby league team. But a really insightful thing came out, and it was talking about Craig Bellamy and the steps that he goes through to sign a prospect. So obviously a young fellow who's pretty good at football. They've looked into them for a while, but he has one sort of last test before they offer the contract. And essentially they get the kid to fly down to Melbourne. He pays for his own flights at his own expense to meet with the coach. And he has two tests that the kid must pass before they sign him. Any guesses of what they might be, Abe? Good at footy?
No.
No. So, it's all about culture, right? So he takes him to coffee. They'll go out for a coffee. The first test, when he orders his coffee, does he say please? The second test, when they bring the coffee to the table, does he say thank you? If he doesn't pass either of those, 2 strikes, you're out. See you later. No contract. And everyone thought there's like no way. And they just said, look, at the end of the day, there is hundreds of thousands of good football players in Australia. All the best teams that make it to the finals are all pretty similar skill-wise, but the teams that win are generally the ones that have the least amount of off-field incidents.
It's a winning culture, right?
The winning culture, right? And it's like, look outside of rugby league, right? If anyone's read the book about the All Blacks, it's exactly the same. They have one rule: no dickheads in the locker room. You know, so we've seen how successful the All Blacks have been over the last however many years.
Yep.
So yeah, just the learning of the week, the importance of culture, little things like manners, they go a long way. So start them early.
And dude, that's so important for when you're hiring people, especially if you have a team that's remote, is that you need to make sure that their values, not so much align, like you don't want to have a whole heap of people that have the same values as you, but you want to have people that have the right work ethic and are going to be honest and upfront about things. So many times I've seen people that work from home who don't actually do any work. They forget about the work bit and just do the from home stuff. So I think it's important there that you really are aware of the people that you're hiring. And if you want to hire, you should be hiring people so they can perform your job or the next role that they have to do, right? So you want to be hiring future managers. You don't want to be hiring someone who's going to be, at the bottom rung their entire life, because those are not the people who you want in your organization. You want to hire people who are going to be performing well.
Definitely. And a good thing that came out of my study recently, actually, at the MBA, a quote came out and said, it's easy to coach people how to work for you. It's harder to coach people to replace you, like to take your job, essentially. And that's what you want to be doing, right?
Yeah.
What do you got?
So my learning of the week is that everyone has a journey that you can learn from. And I'm really bad at it, but I think it's important that we place priorities on catching up with people who you may have been close with in the past, who went on a divergent path some other way or some other process, or that you may not have talked to for a while. And it's especially easy when you're in the military, because there's lots of opportunities where you meet lots of different people, and it gives you this great opportunity to go and talk to those people. Like you look at last week with Dylan Conway. I mean, you two were both in the Army together. He was up in Towns at the same time I was, but didn't really interact with him that much. So being able to go back and look at his path and wow, that's amazing stuff that you've done. So I spoke to one of the blokes I previously deployed with, who started his own company, went on to sell that company and has moved on to working in investment banking. He actually owns a part of the investment bank. And it was just really interesting just to have a discussion around what he's doing now, his path to get there. And it just gives you a whole heap of insights into how things operate and how different people achieve different things in life. And I think it's really important for your own internal perspective about how the journey that you're on at the moment and what possibilities that can lead to, and opportunities as well that you may have missed because you were, I guess, can't see the forest through the trees type scenario.
Yeah, and I think that's massively important. And just look at the call we had last week. Like I came away with so much just from that chat with Dylan, and it led to conversations with my wife about how to implement reading with the kids and what that looks like as they get older and forming those good habits, right? Which leads nicely into what we're going to talk about today. So yeah, it's a good reminder as well to check in with people you haven't talked to for a while because we could all be learning more from each other.
Yep, absolutely right. All right. My quote of the week relates to what I just said, but also what we're talking about today with habits. My quote is by Carl Jung, and it is, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So essentially it's taking the time to put your head up and realize what you may be doing unconsciously, such as whenever you might feel anxious or bored or have a pause in thinking, you might pick up your phone and go on social media, get on the TikToks and spend 20, 30 minutes wasting your life on TikTok when you suddenly realize that this is an unconscious habit. You don't even think about it. You just go, oh, yeah, that's interesting. Oh, time to pick up my phone. Or you're with friends and you're meant to be socializing, interacting, having dinner together, talking about things, catching up with friends, but no one, like you're not paying attention in the conversation because of an unconscious habit where you're on your phone. And so that, you can see it more so today than any other age is that that's directing people's lives and everything that goes with it. So you'll call it fate, but realistically, it's just you biasing towards your unconscious habits.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't want to touch on that too much because we're going to talk about that as we go through today. But definitely a good point to lead into today. And my quote's also going to be very relevant for today. Mr. Jimmy Carr has received the boot. I apologise, Jimmy. Please don't put.
I was so disappointed when Andrew told me he was going to break his streak.
I'm breaking the streak, but I think I need to because today's quote is from James Clear, who is the author of Atomic Habits. And whilst today isn't a book review, so to speak, a lot of our content will be based on his book, which is the science behind habits and how to create habits and processes to build them. So his quote is, "Success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformation." So we're not looking for overnight success by building habits. We're looking at those small gains to achieve our long-term goals. So that one again is relevant to what we're going to talk about today.
And I was actually really angry with Andrew about not choosing Jimmy Carr because I thought Jimmy Carr had like a very excellent quote.
You've already used it. You've already used it. The systems fall to our systems. You've already used it.
No. If not that one.
What are you talking about?
The quote of the first few weeks of Weight Watchers, all you're doing is finding your feet.
Yeah. I'd say that's a joke, not a quote. And
it's relevant, right? First few weeks of forming habits, it's always the hardest. You're just finding your feet. You're just getting into it. Same with Weight Watchers, right? Building habits. Healthy habits, mate. But Andrew didn't have a bar of it. I don't think he even responded to me when I said it to you.
Trying to keep it PG rated. All right, so let's jump in.
It's like the most PG of Jimmy Carr's jokes, mate.
I know, but oh well, here we are. So let's talk habits. Let's talk habits, and we should probably again not jump the gun. Let's actually talk about what habits are. And a lot of people probably associate, they hear the word habits and you can either think good habits, bad habits, right? Obviously the bad habits, smoking, drinking, whatever you want to associate with a bad habit. Social media is a big one that I've personally have tried to break recently. But obviously good habits as well. And good habits and the creation of good habits can lead to long-term success. So specifically, habits are the behaviors that are repeated regularly and often occur subconsciously. So as Abe just said with his quote, until we bring that subconscious into the conscious and actually understand our habits, good or bad, there's not much we can do about it. So we'll talk more about that today. But
I think the big one is that it occurs subconsciously. and a lot of people can get that part wrong where they focus too much on like, oh, I need to do this. It's not a habit if you're having to think about it. If you just go and do it without having to really think about it too much at all or at all, then it's occurring in your subconscious, and it's just then it's a habit, right? And it needs to be done regularly. Is the key bit. And I love when people say, I'm building this habit, which is always great to see. And I think the biggest part there is like just getting started, and repeated regularly means that like there's going to be times when you fail, but the biggest part there is that you get back on and get it done.
Yeah, of course. And I guess at the end of the day, we use habits to save effort and create efficiency if we can associate them with some sort of goal and some sort of regularity, right? It's with habits and with goals, it's not often like my quote said, it's not an overnight success. It's more about repetition. And there's a lot of science out there. There's a lot of quotes you'll read that says, I think it's something like, oh, it takes 6 weeks to create a habit, but 1 week to break a habit. The big thing that comes out of Atomic Habits, the book for me, is that forget that. It's not really about the time based. It's more about the repetitions. If you're doing the repetitions consistently and getting those streaks and not breaking the chain, then those habits are going to stick and those goals are going to come. So I think that's a big focus and something we'll go into more today. But let's start off with
if we talk about the habit loop.
The habit loop, that's what I was about to say.
All right, cool. Let's talk about the habit loop. So the habit loop is it's essentially the process in which we go to perform the habit. And so it consists of your cue, your craving, your response, and your reward. So let's just take it in turns, right? So let's just talk about the cue. So the cue is for what it is to start that habit. So for me, and I'll talk about it later, a cue to go to the gym is essentially having lunch and finishing work. That's my cue, and that also is my cue to disassociate from the work that I'm doing and get back to personal life. Right, that's the cue. Or it could be when you're working on a problem at work and you have a mind blank. Your cue could be to go and do something to fill that time, or you're feeling frustrated about something. For people who feel anxious or anything like that, you could also have a cue to conduct some sort of habit. Like maybe it's if you're feeling anxious in a social environment, it might be to put headphones in, listen to music, or get on your phone. But there's always a cue that initiates the habit to start with.
Yeah, and I think if we roll on to the craving, that's going to be associated with the cue, right? Because if you've got a mind blank at work, that craving is then going to be, well, I want to alleviate that boredom. I want to do something that fills the time. So again, the cue and the craving are generally going to be tied pretty closely. And then I'm going to take the next one anyway. The response is essentially the action that you take. So cue, mind blank at work or boredom at work, craving, I want to alleviate that boredom. What is my response? I'm going to pull out my phone. I'm going to check Facebook. And we're talking about bad habits here, but those habits can then be repeated and repeated and repeated. Because I've checked Facebook, I now want to check Instagram. I now want to check TikTok, and now we're 20 minutes in the hole on social media. And the last one,
the reward, right? And that's the big part that we focus on. When we have good habits, the reward is good. When we have bad habits, it's often a subconscious dopamine hit or something else that reward is associated with. Like, so if someone is gambling, they don't actually receive the dopamine hit from the winning. They actually receive the dopamine hit from when they place the bet. So when you think about the reward in the gambling cycle, it actually happens before they even win any money. So really, gambling's not even about the money; it's about the risk, that feeling of being alive and betting it all. Like you see the girls who take out their entire paycheck and put it all in in the slots or on blackjack or whatever. It's the risk. It's that feeling that gives them that dopamine hit. That's the reward. And so I'd argue that the reward for you know the cue of being bored at work, the craving, you want to alleviate the boredom, the response is to check your social media. The reward of that is that dopamine hit you get from like, oh, someone's liked my post. Oh, someone's commented on this. That's the dopamine hit that Facebook and Instagram and all the other social media platforms have really been able to create. Is it's not the actual, oh, I'm no longer bored anymore, because you're still going to be bored, but now you've had a dopamine hit because someone's liked your stuff. Whereas if we look at like a good habit for a reward, it's if you go and you work out or you read a book, right? You read a book, the reward is you're going to increase your intelligence. You're going to increase your probably mental health. For working out, your reward is then going to be focused around, well, now I look better, or I'm able to lift more, I'm able to run faster, depending on what you actually want out of that activity. So I think a really important bit there is to understand where the reward lies in those good and bad habits, because often we can think of it's really hard to break a bad habit if you don't understand where it comes from or where the reward is.
It's the classic like KFC guilt, right? You want KFC, you have that reward immediately, and then you got the guilt after. You're like, oh no. But it's and taking that one step further, generally what we see with good habits and bad habits is bad habits, you see the reward, you see the immediate feedback straight away. Like if you want to drink a beer, you get that immediate feedback of, oh, this beer's great. But obviously the long term is it's not great for your health. Whereas flip it for a good habit, you read a book, you're not going to see that intelligence straight away. It's actually the long term. And that's why people give up their good habits so quick, but they're more likely to keep the bad habits because they
Well,
keep getting
that's why
that
bad
immediate
habits.
dopamine.
That's why bad habits are so successful, because to make them a habit, like you wouldn't continue to bet if you weren't getting a dopamine hit every time you bet, because you're like, I'm just losing a shitload of money here, right? But because of that dopamine hit that's just constant and just keeps going, whereas good habits, it's harder to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and take someone who's disciplined and committed to get there.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to get to like, how to develop habits and maintain and create a system of habits eventually, which we'll talk about how you can use those rewards to break that, good and bad habits and implement those good habits rather than bad habits. But before we get there, I think it's important to highlight the importance of tiny changes over massive action. And this comes back to my quote where it's about repetitions. It's not about, seeing a 100% increase overnight. Like if I'm going to the gym, I'm not going to double my bench press overnight, maybe. But
Depends how
if
much
I'm
train
going,
you're on, I guess.
yeah, if I'm going consistently, those 1% gains are going to start to add up, and I'm going to see improvement over time. So, the really good example, I think it comes out of the book, is if you're flying from New York to LA and you were to adjust the plane by 3 degrees and fly on a consistent trajectory from that location, you're going to end up in Mexico, closer to Tijuana than your original destination of LA. And it's no different with habits, right? A slight change, a tiny change each day can significantly increase your end goal or the direction of your lifestyle, really. So,
And you see it all the time, and people preach about it all the time. Is these fad diets or like a juice cleanse, or saying, I'm going to lose like 10 kilos by taking man shakes. And it's like, yeah, okay, you're making a massive action, but it's not sustainable. It's not something that you're going to continue after that point. You'll do your little man shake thing for 10 weeks, and then you'll be like, oh, okay, well, back to KFC, son. And then, next thing you know, you put that 10 kilos back on. You're like, oh, I need another man shake cleanse. And it's like, no, man, you just need to like either get your steps up every day or just make
reduce those
slight
calories.
changes.
Yeah.
Reduce KFC down to once a week instead of 5 times a week. Cook more home meals, eat less. There's just slight things you can do over time instead of making these massive changes. Like if you're and when you're trying to put these habits onto people as well, you need to make sure that you're not making like a massive fundamental shift in the way they're operating, and you start with these little 1% movements. Like if you are training someone, you don't just go, great, here it all is, off you go. You have an onboarding program, you have a system to build the habits and the routine and where you want them to be, how to do things correctly. So getting that 1% better is really where it is. There's no such thing as an overnight success. It's just about continuing every single day in that whole process of just, I want to be better. And this is where good habits are so hard, because often the reward is so long term and people don't want to spend the 1%. They don't want to do the hard work. They just want the outcome.
Yeah, well, how many times? Like, look at gym memberships in January, right? They spike massively.
I hate the gym in January. God, I hate the gym in January.
Because everyone
all the Andrew Martins are there.
Has those new plans. They have their new goals for the year, and that goal is lose 10 kilos, or it's very outcome based. It's not system based. It's not I'm going to become someone that goes to the gym every day. It's I'm going to lose 10 kilos, and that's where the fad diets and all those things come in, and it's not sustainable. So it leads nicely into, I guess, the difference between goals and systems. And obviously goals, like I just said, it's very, very result based. So lose 10 kilos. You can achieve that many different ways, right? But if your focus is, rather than lose 10 kilos, become someone who goes to the gym 3 times a week, because you're going to go to the gym, you're going to go for a couple of weeks.
Changing your whole persona.
It's an identity. It's identity based, right?
Yeah, I'm someone who goes to the gym.
And if you go to the gym and you're there for 3 weeks and you step on the scale and you don't see some significant change, how many people just go, oh, well, it's not working. I'm out. I'm going to do something different. And again, that's the short term. You're not going to see those short term results straight away. We're playing the long game with good habits. So, I think, and it's specific for the creation of habits, is we should be focusing on the systems and the processes that lead to those results. So rather than I'm going to lose 10 kilos, focus on I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. It doesn't matter if I go for 10 minutes. It doesn't matter if I go for 2 hours. I'm going to be at the gym 3 times a week. And that way it becomes flexible. If you've had a terrible week with work, if your kids are sick, you can at least get there for 10 minutes. That's a goal. That's a win, right? It's not about getting there, burning 2,000 calories, being there for 2 hours. It's being the identity and the goal that you set, or the system you set, that you're going to get there 3 times a week, regardless of what occurs.
And the thing is, right, a goal, like, yes, SMART goals are essential, because SMART goals give you that, that guiding light that you want to be towards. And sure, it might be to lose 10 kilos. Great, have the goal. But you also need to make sure that you're putting the systems in place. And we're going to go on to how to create, a system to develop effective habits. But the biggest part is that without the system, you will achieve the goal and not progress any further, or you won't be able to achieve the goal because discipline beats motivation any day of the week. And the easiest way to build discipline is through systems. And if you have a system that you follow day in and day out, and you're disciplined to that system, then you're going to achieve your goal. Motivation is fleeting. And we always have these motivations when we go to set these goals and say, oh, I'm motivated as hell in January. I'm going to lose 10 Ks, and then 10 kgs. And then you get into February and you're like, maybe 10 kgs was a bit of a stretch. I've lost 2. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's just keep going from here. Whereas realistically, when you have a system and you have discipline, you're then going to say, great, I've only lost 2 kg, which is good, because now I get to continue processing on this system and continue to execute on this every day. And so the easiest way to succeed at life is to develop systems and processes that allow you to achieve goals, as opposed to creating goals and just blindly running after them.
Yeah, and what's worse is, like, what happens if you do hit the goal? Then what? If it's lose 10 kilos and you hit it, but you haven't put those systems in place, what's next? Do you go back to your old behavior? Do you continue the way it is? Like, when was it? 2 years ago, I did F45 challenge. My goal was to win it because there was a money prize. So I went hard for whatever it was, 12 weeks. I won the $1,000, and then
Can we talk about
10 kilos on a couple of weeks later.
Can we talk about you eating KFC before the weigh-in just to make sure that you weighed as much as possible.
Exactly. So as I said, the goal was outcome based. It had nothing to do with my systems. Obviously, I was training the house down and losing
I'm
weight.
sure you were training the house down, mate.
I was. I dropped some pretty significant weight, but like you said, it all came back because I just went straight back to having beers and eating KFC.
The system wasn't there, right? It was just the
Smashing
goal
wicked
of winning
wings.
it.
Exactly.
Smashing wicked wings.
So
Exactly.
speaking of systems, how do we implement a system, Abe?
So let's just recap before we crack on. So just bring everyone back. So habits are behaviors that are repeated regularly and occur subconsciously. So let's just remember that about habits. Tiny changes versus massive changes. We want to make sure that our goals and our systems we put in place are not like big upheavals and moving. We want to slowly make the course correction to get where we want to be 1% better every day. We look at goals and systems. Goals are often short-term based and don't have the systems, or very rarely have the systems behind them that allow you to move past that goal. So what we want to do is we want to build systems for success as opposed to goals based on outcomes. So the next part that we're going to go on with is, well, how do we actually do this? And there's a book by James Clear which goes on about the system of atomic habits. And so this book, for anyone that's out there that wants to build good habits, I'd recommend reading it after our episode last week with Dylan. Don't listen to it, read it, because you'll get a lot more out of it and you've got to be committed to it. But it's the system of creating atomic habits. This book is really good because what it does is it gives you actionable things that you can do and describes really well how you can create these habits, how you can build systems where you want to be at. So behavioral change, it's based on 3 layers. So it's changing outcomes, changing processes, and your identity or your persona. Okay. So those are the 3 areas. So changing outcome. So this is what you get. So this is almost like the reward, right? So changing the outcome of your habits, of what you want to be. So getting an A on your assignment, winning a footy grand final, losing 200 kilos, those are things that outcomes, right? Like a habit, a good football team, a good rugby team is going to turn up every Tuesday and Thursday, and they're going to do their training. When they turn up to game day on Saturday, they're going to be there early, they're going to be prepared, and they're going to warm up well, and they're going to play bloody well because that's a winning team. If your habits of your football team are like, Tuesdays, maybe if you feel like it, Thursdays, look, sure, great, be good to have everyone here, then you're not going to be a grand final competitive team. You might, through having skillful players come, fourth or, in the top 8 or whatever, but you're not going to be a champion team because you don't have that champion habits that are in place. The next one, processes, Andrew.
Yeah, and I think just the important thing to focus on with outcomes is this is generally where people focus. So when they talk about habits, this is their main focus is outcomes based, and that's probably the mistake. And we'll get to why. But processes is obviously the what you do. So Abe talks about the football team. The process to build that culture is making training routine Tuesday and Thursday nights. It's not optional. If
Bulldogs rugby was a great example of it. Is that they held a selection committee every Thursday, and if you're not turning up to training or whatever the case may be, if you don't have a good excuse, then you're not going to be in the first grade team. You're probably not going to be in the second grade team. It's like if you don't train, you don't play. It's that simple, and they're pretty hard and fast on that, which is good because that's they've won it for 2 years in a row now. So.
Yeah, and take the flip side of that. The team I'm playing for this year, we just had about 8 injuries hit us in the last 2 weeks. So the guys that hadn't been training because they weren't getting a chance to play, they haven't been turning up. So on the weekend, our undefeated team, we didn't lose. We had a draw, but we had a draw with the worst team in the competition. So it stings. So we'll move on. But the process is what you do. So it's getting to training. It's your daily study, your daily reading, your new workout routine, getting there 3 times a week. So it's the process that leads to the outcome. And then the last one is identity. And this is where I just said a lot of people focus on outcomes, it should really be about the identity, because if we and identity, to define it, it's what you think about yourself, the opinion you have about yourself, and the opinion you have about others. So, whilst most people focus on outcomes, it's better to focus on the person you want to become. If you want to become someone that goes to the gym, identify as someone that goes to the gym. If you want to run a marathon, become a runner. Don't become a marathon. Like, don't set the goal of the outcome to run a marathon. Set the goal to become a runner. That way, when you finally do run a marathon, you haven't just reached your goal and then you go back to your old habits. You've become a runner. So you're going to consistently run after you hit that goal.
And I think it's really funny when you talk about identity is that once people do something for the first time, their identity changes significantly with that. So I put in perspective of I see people. So Jesse, who recently did his first bodybuilding competition in Bathurst. He did it in Sydney, but he's from Bathurst, right? Before he did the competition, I would say maybe a little bit before it, you could tell he didn't have the identity of I'm a bodybuilder. But post the competition, it's like, man, this guy is locked in this guy believes he is a bodybuilder, which is the mindset you need to have. Because if you don't have that, you're not going to put the systems, processes in place to be a champion bodybuilder, right? And so credit to him. But what we often see is that until people have done this thing, it's almost like they carry this weight of imposter syndrome on their back. And when people are starting a business, like, I'm not a business owner, until they start to feel comfortable and get off that imposter syndrome, and then suddenly it's like, boom, they're like, I'm a business owner. And the identity changes. And then it just is amazing. The same with people who have a goal of running a marathon, and then they suddenly run a marathon and they're a marathon runner, which is great, right? But the problem is that people often wait until they achieve the goal before they adopt the identity. Whereas you need to adopt if you know how many people fall off running a marathon, right? Who don't actually achieve that goal because they fall short of it, because they don't identify as a marathon runner. Some people who are disciplined and put processes in place will probably get there. But if you identify from the day dot, like, hey, I am now a bodybuilder, boom, I'm locked in, I'm a bodybuilder, then that you're going to achieve that goal. And you can see that in people when they believe their identity is that.
And I think I've seen it myself, where I think there's a lot of power in saying it out loud, or at least having that identity, right? So, like, I've had friends who have quit drinking. I've tried it for certain periods. And there's a big difference between someone, if
I don't drink anymore, or
if you were to offer me a
break.
beer and I say, no, thanks, I'm all good, to me saying, I don't drink anymore. Right? You get the message pretty loud and clear. I've said it out loud. So I'm like, now I'm being held responsible for my own words, versus me saying, oh no, I'm good. Thank you. No, thank you. Versus saying, I don't drink. You've adopted that identity, and it also helps, like, being around people that have a similar identity, and we'll get to that as well. But let's talk about the 4 habit laws. And this one has come directly out of Atomic Habits. So
this is back. So when we look at this 4 habit laws, this is how you build the system. So this is like the foundation to building your system. And it's really important that when you look at these, you spend the time crafting out the elements that are going to contribute to this, because it's like you layer it to build your system. So Andrew, take us off for the first one.
Yeah, and I think something we probably should have said earlier in the pod is to know your habits, bring it into the conscious. So just go, before you even start this, go and list your daily routine, and break it right down, make it really stupid. Like, wake up, or turn alarm off, wake up, have a shower, brush teeth, make a coffee, go to work, like drive to work, like, because then we can categorize these into positive and negative, and then we know what is routine, because then we can talk about things like habit stacking, which I'm about to talk about. So
almost making the unconscious conscious.
Exactly.
Right? Like
exactly.
what Carl Jung said. So that's exactly it, is that from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, just in a little notebook, just write down everything that you do and at what time. and then just do it for one day and just see what's there. And then after it, you put a plus, a minus, or equals.
Mm-hmm.
And so plus is a positive thing, minus is a negative thing, like KFC, negative thing, plus going to the gym. Or it could be an equals, which is just like, this is just something that just happens, turning off your alarm clock. Yep. Right? Like it's just something that happens. Sharing every day may be positive for some people. I don't know.
Depends. Twice a day.
For my kids, mate, it's a good habit for them to get into.
So the 4 habit laws is make it obvious, and this is related to our cue. Make it attractive. This is related to our craving. Make it easy, which is related to our response, and make it satisfying, which is related to our reward. So bringing it back, make it obvious. So we start with our strategy for creating good habits. So make it clear. Okay, if you're going to start a habit, a really poor example is I'm going to read more this month. Whereas if we specify it and we link it to another habit, so I will read a book every morning at 7 a.m. and also state a location. And in the book, they talk about one location for one purpose. So if your lounge room or your media room is where you watch Netflix, or where you and your partner watch Netflix, you're less likely to read a book in there while your partner's watching Netflix. So pick a location for your task or for your habit. So if it's your balcony or something like that, go and do that. So implementation intentions is making it clear when and where are you going to do it. Take it one step further by habit stacking. So this is where we would pair the new habit that you want to achieve with an existing habit that is that subconscious habit. So for example, brushing your teeth. Everyone, I hope, brushes their teeth every day. So if you can stack a habit with an existing habit, every morning when you brush your teeth, say your new habit is going to be flossing. Every morning when I brush my teeth, I'm going to floss for 5 minutes in this location, right? If you want to read a book, a really good one is every morning when I make my coffee, I'm going to read a book. It might just be one page for 5 minutes on my balcony before I start my day. So that's how we would habit stack. And generally, we want to habit stack with a positive habit or a neutral habit. So something that we're doing every day consistently that we can stack on top of it. And the last piece I kind of already talked about, but it's your environment. So surround yourself with good cues for that habit to actually thrive. So like I said, if you want to read a book, you're probably not going to do it in your media room. You're probably not going to do it in your kids' toy room while they're playing. Set an environment that's going to set you up for success. And you can also make visual cues. So if you're going to read a book every night, put the book on your bedside table. If you are going to drink, if your habit is drink more water, if you're like me and you drink like 1 liter of water a day, put water bottles out where you're going to like put a water bottle in your, there you go, put a water bottle in your office, put a water bottle in the fridge, put it on your kitchen bench so that you actually see it and you get those visual cues as well. And
that's why they created those water bottles. I hate them. I absolutely hate them. They're stupid water bottles with measurements, like the hydration levels, and it's like, oh god, you're such a loser. But
and
if that's
do you want to talk about the flip side?
Right.
And if we go flip side and we want to break a bad habit, it's no different really. We're just going to alter the surroundings to break those habits. If you're like me and my wife, who continually buy caramello koalas in bulk for our kids, and then we end up eating them, remove that thing from your environment. Yeah, exactly. I came down the other day. I said, where'd all the caramello koalas go? And Charlotte's like, oh, I don't know. It's like the kids didn't eat them. That was definitely you. So just remove them, right? Get it out of your house.
I like it how you started off with we and then put it all on Charlotte at the end.
Yeah, look, I have one or two, but it's definitely Charlotte is the bulk.
Way to put Charlotte on blast. I can't wait to share this clip with her.
That's fine. We'll get another.
She knows what she's done.
One more.
But viewer. I think this is the most important piece, I think, of the whole thing, is making it obvious, because it's very, very difficult to get into a habit if it's hidden away. And so you really got to make sure it's there, it's obvious, it's in your face. And habit stacking is really do habit stacking just something that you have to do, you have to do every day. So I'll get into it later on, but for me, I have to eat lunch, I have to finish work at some stage. So I habit stack that with something else, and that gets me to the gym, right? So that's just something that has to happen that then transfers across. I think reducing exposure is a really funny one, right? We use the we use the example of getting bored and getting on social media on your phone or whatever where you're working or whatever environment. I love the idea of those restaurants, and it's a really sad case that we have to get to this point where they have like the cage in the middle of the table, and everyone locks their stuff in there. And what is it? The first one to unlock the cage has to pay for dinner. I think is like a great motivation to get people to be more social, and it's reducing exposure, right? Because you can't get there's a negative connotation. If you get on your phone, you're paying, and that will turn people off. But it's about that. Like if you know you're bad on your phone, instead of bringing it to work with you and sitting on your desk, put it in a drawer, or if you work from home, put it on charge in another room. Because then you have to actively like get up out of your chair, go and get your phone to get on it. It's like reducing that exposure, making it hard. So to get rid of bad habits, make it hard.
A really good one that I did recently, Abe, is I removed social media apps from my phone. They're completely gone. So to log into Facebook on my phone, I actually have to go onto the web browser, type in facebook.com, somehow remember my password and login details, put in authentication code, and I just don't bother because it's too hard. So to actually get on Facebook or social media, I have to jump on my laptop, which again, if I'm not in my office, I'd have to make an effort to go from the kitchen, go into my office, open my laptop to fire up Facebook, which to me is just not worth it. So just remove it completely, and you'll be surprised at how much you don't miss it, like at all. I thought I would never survive without Facebook, and the only negative connotation to not being on it is I forget people's birthdays because I'm useless. But otherwise, zero.
Exactly.
Zero.
Yeah, so make it hard. And iPhones have a screen time. So if you're really bad at staying up late on your phone, watching reels or whatever, just activate screen time and get someone you trust to hold the password for it so you can't just enter the password for it. But you can just put on screen time. So it comes on at 8 p.m. and you're like, well, I can't scroll TikToks until 1 a.m. So I guess I'll just go to sleep. Right? It's breaking that habit, making it hard. All right. And the next one is make it attractive. So this is that desire, motivation to perform the habit. So how do we do this? Temptation bundling. So this is what Andrew talked about with bundling, that habit stacking, something that you need to do with an action you want to do. So let's just say that you have a favorite podcast you want to listen to, but you can only listen to podcasts when you go walking. So if your goal is to get your steps up and to lose weight, then you set this this temptation bundling of, okay, cool, I now have to go for a walk to listen to my favorite podcast. Something along those lines. One thing I saw which was pretty extreme was someone set up their TV. The only way their TV would have power is if they were cycling on their bike. And so, like, this is two extremes, right? There's a lot to set up and everything
I do
like
this
that.
to my kids.
But they had to cycle on the bike to get the TV to turn on. And so they want to watch TV, but they also need to cycle. And so you're bundling them together by, you have to cycle to power the TV. This is the next one's a really powerful one, and I really love this one, is join a culture. So this for me is probably the most powerful thing you can do. And it's why those, all of these CrossFit gyms and stuff like that are really successful when they build a good culture. And I'm going to say that the gym that I'm at in Bathurst, Snap Fitness, has a great culture for the trainers there and everything like that, where it's always really motivating. There's a good mindset there. You go in there, people pushing themselves to the limit. And I think that's a really, really good thing, is surrounding yourself with people who are either like-minded. So if what's the old saying? You are the people you hang around with and things like that, right? So if you're hanging around with people who love to drink, smoke, unhealthy, low motivation, then you're going to become that way. Whereas if you change your group that you're with to people who are highly motivated, fit, you might be the lowest rung for now, but you'll eventually build up and come up to their level. It's just the law of averages, right? So join that culture that's going to make habits easy to maintain. So if you're a marathon runner, because you've now identified as a marathon runner, then go and join a club that runs marathons, because you get that much better from it. And then The other part here is reframing your mindset about bad habits. So when we look at gambling, you might think, oh, I could win money. But realistically, you tally it up and be like, oh, I lose a lot of money when I gamble. I could have more money to buy this. Um, I go out every weekend and spend $500 on, you know, whatever substances and alcohol and things like that, right? But you could be saying, well, I could spend that, I could, put that $500 towards a house, or I could put that $500 towards a new car, or, buy myself something else, right? So it's reframing that mindset towards, well, where do I want to be and what type of person do I want to be with those bad habits, and making them seem less attractive. So taking the focus away from when I gamble, I get that dopamine hit right before I press bet. Now it's changes the reframing it to like, oh my God, I lost $1,000 last month on gambling. I shouldn't do that. So I think, that's a really important part as well, as reframing that mindset.
Yeah, definitely. And the third law is make it easy. And this is related to our response. So the behavior that we respond with when we have that cue and that habit. So we want to reduce friction and we want to prime the environment, which I've already talked about. So reducing friction, obviously decreasing the number of steps between you and the habit. So a good example, if you want to read a book, having it in your having it in your backpack, having it by your bedside table. If you want to go to the gym more, obviously, if you're going to a gym that's 20 minutes travel, you're probably not going to go there. But if you're going to a gym that's on your travel to and from work, you're more likely to do that, because again, it's related to a habit of driving to and from work, and you don't have to go out of your way. Priming the environment. So a good example is if you're going to go to the gym. So my wife does this. She goes to very, very early gym sessions. So she has all of her gym equipment out, ready to go the night before. So when she wakes up, it's already there. She's reducing the friction. She just has to put it on and she's out the door. So making that easier step between you and the goal. And probably the bigger one is the 2-minute rule. And I just like to think of this as not setting unrealistic expectations. So in Atomic Habits, they talk
This is
about
that incremental
yeah,
change.
it's incremental, but they say if you really want to break it right back, if you're going from like never being in the gym in your life to starting a gym, start it at a 2-minute routine. So that routine could look like putting on your gym clothes and stretching for 2 minutes. Start that as your first goal. Start that as your the first part of your habit, and slowly build that up. And the way that I like to look at it is, and probably the thing that really got me back into the gym when I was going, was not having such high expectations on every session. So I used to be in the mindset you'd have to go, you'd be there for 90 minutes at least. You'd be working through the roof. So then on the days where you don't feel like doing that, you just don't go. But if you have the mindset of instead just getting to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, it doesn't matter if you're there for 10 minutes, just getting there, stretch, jump on the bike for 10 minutes. Just get something completed. If that's your goal, you're going to be a lot more likely to maintain that habit than thinking that you're going to be breaking, bench press records every time you go to the gym. And that by far was the most effective method that
Man, I've
helped
had
me.
some of the best sessions at the gym I've ever had in my life when I was feeling flat and lethargic. And then suddenly you just go there and you're like, everything's on.
Yeah, you get the spark because you're there and you're like, well, I'm already here. May as well make the most of it. And there's some really good examples in the book about people that started with the actual 2-minute routine and have gone on to be in the gym for 700 days straight, sort of thing. So yeah, and obviously if we want to look at the flip side of it, to break bad habits, you want to do the opposite. Increase the steps of friction into it. If you're watching, like Abe said, if you're watching TikTok all night, put restrictions on your phone. If you're watching Netflix for hours on end after work and you don't want to be doing that, unplug it. Watch one episode and unplug the TV. So then to watch Netflix again, you've got to plug it in, reconnect the Wi-Fi, go through massive amounts of pain. If you're like me, social media, remove the apps from your phone. So you have to go through those extra steps to actually get onto the platform. And you'll be surprised how much you don't miss it.
Yeah. And look, I think it's pretty straightforward there, where it's just about turning up and just making those small changes as you move through to try and make it easier for yourself to get in there. But the next one is the satisfying. And so this is based around that reward piece. So, what benefit do you gain from the habit itself? So, use reinforcement is the first one. And so, this can either be, let's just say you don't gamble for a month, then you get $200 to go and spend on new shoes because you're still $800 up, right? So that's a reinforcement key there. Or you could reward yourself with dark chocolate after a workout. Um, there, if you are trying to build habits into other people, such as your children, then you could use positive reinforcement. When they do something that you want them to do, say, well done, great job, high five, cuddle, good work. That's what you want to do. You use positive reinforcement. There's many ways to do positive reinforcement. You just need to figure out what's the intrinsic motivator for someone to get that done. And then the other one there is tracking your progress. And so this is a really interesting one because there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. There's actually a really good habit tracker app that's on iPhone, which will just show you like, hey, how many days you've completed this habit, and create custom habits in there and things like that. So I think that's like a really good way to do it. One way as well is that if you have, let's just say you've got a task to send 50 emails, you have 50 little tokens on one side of the table or in one cup, and you move them to the other cup once you've done those 50. So it's like a visual thing. That's the biggest part. If you're looking to, be a bodybuilder or increase your fitness, become a marathon runner, you can, marathon runners, you can just track your split times. You can track the time it takes you to run something. If you're a powerlifter, you can track the weights that you've lifted. Are you getting stronger? If it's like body composition wise, you can get the body scans done and see how you're increasing or decreasing, whatever percentages you want to. There's lots of different things to track your progress, lots of tools out there. And the biggest part is that you have that focus in mind, or that continual development, and a way to understand that. Never miss twice is a really interesting one here, because it's like when your kid falls off a bike, you say, all right, mate, get back on. You got to get back on the horse. It's the same thing. Not every day is going to be perfect. There are going to be some days where you completely blow it out and you go, oh, I'm not making it to the gym today. Great. We'll go tomorrow. Make sure you go tomorrow. Don't miss twice, because as soon as you start to miss twice, then you're starting to break that new habit. And that's the start of a new habit, because it's starting to become a routine of not going to the gym. So never miss twice.
Yeah, and I just want to go back to the tracking. I think it's really important to understand tracking goals versus tracking processes. I think it's really important to, especially at the start, track the process. Don't track, I want to lose 10 kilos. Track, I want to go to the gym 3 times a week, because that'll help you achieve it. And Abe, you use Superhuman. So Superhuman's like an email tool. I don't know if you're obsessed as me, but there's a feature in there where if you clear your inbox out, you get a streak. So it'll tell you, congrats, you've cleared your inbox 12 weeks in a row. I'm obsessed with keeping that streak going. I think I'm at like 47 weeks. So that's a really good way. And all it needs to be is like a little calendar where you put a little gold star on it, or a check that says you've gone to the gym. Week 1, you've hit your three sessions in week 1. Week 2, you've hit your 3 sessions again. Because again, if you miss one day, you can make it up. Go twice the next 2 days. So
it's like Garmin. Whenever you hit a milestone, it'll tell you like, congratulations, you have hit a milestone, right? Like,
and look like doing your daily steps. Look how popular that's become now, because people get that little buzz on their phone that says, "Oh, good work! You've hit your steps for the day. You've hit your step goals." So, I think the process is really important there.
Yeah, and then for breaking bad habits, there's a lot of ways we can do this, and making it unsatisfying. I mean, we talked about that, where you make a contract with yourself. You eat KFC more than twice a month, then you have to give up $50 to a charity. or something like that, right? So you make a contract with yourself. But one of the really powerful things, and this is why gym training partners are so good, because they keep you accountable. So you want an accountability partner. Um, they will drive you to be where you want to be. So tell someone like your vision of where you want to be. Tell someone your goals, and then they're going to hold you accountable to that as you move forward. And if they see you start to slack, and be like, "Well, what's going on, mate? Why haven't you done this? Why aren't you going to the gym? Why aren't you reading a book?" And so, if you have a wife, if you have a partner, if you have someone in your life that you can trust with telling these goals to, it might be a personal trainer. They're really good for accountability because they're going to hold you accountable. You obviously haven't been following your diet because you haven't lost weight. Your body composition's all messed up. What's going on? Yep, you're right, I haven't. So having someone who you have to be accountable to is probably the most powerful way to break those bad habits.
Yeah, and I think there's I think in the book it recommends like an accountability contract, but this could just be with whoever that accountability partner is. You're good for it with the gym. You used to bully me all the time, ask me where I was at with my program, get all my details every couple of weeks, which is, I'd literally be like, I need to go to the gym because Abe's going to ask me what I'm lifting this week, and I need to send him through those numbers. But incentivizing your accountability partner as well. If I was to tell my wife, hey, I want to reduce, takeaway.
If you catch me on my phone,
if you catch me on my phone, you're going to get $5. So they're going to call you out. They're going to
be like watching you like a hawk.
They'll be like a hawk. So yeah, that's a massive one as well. But I think we should probably just quickly recap. We'll go through the four laws. So make it obvious. This is related to your cues. So implementation intention. So being specific. I'm going to do this at this particular time in this particular location. Habit stacking. So relating your new habit to an existing habit. Every morning when I brush my teeth, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And then making the environment suitable to that habit. Make it attractive. So this is related to your craving. So bundle it with a temptation. Join a good culture. So if you want to stop drinking, associate yourselves with people that don't drink. If you want to go to the gym, get yourself into a gym culture and a good culture. Make it easy, and this is related to your response. So reduce the friction. So if you are going to a gym, make it on your way to and from work. Don't make it 20 minutes out of your way. If you want to read a book, put it in a location that's going to be easily accessible. Prime the environment. So get your gym clothes out the night before. And if you need to, break it right down back to really, really easily executable implementations. So 2-minute rule or whatever that might be. And then finally, make it satisfying. And of course, this is about the reward. So using reinforcement, give yourself some nice chocolate or something when you hit a week worth of gym routine or have that 1 week of, the cheat night. Everyone knows the cheat night.
It could be, going to get a pedicure or, there's just think of a way that is going to give you.
Relate it back to your habit. Like a good one I did. Well, I know people that I'll say I did it. If you read for a week or you every time you finish a book, you get rewarded by buying another book or money to spend on something else. But track it however you want, whatever's going to enhance your, I guess, engagement. Never miss twice. So missing once is a mistake. Missing twice, you're starting down a bad habit. And then do the flip side for all your bad habits. So get your accountability partners, contracts underway, and get after it.
Mm-hmm. And now let's jump into some practical applications of how that all works.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with reading a book because I've spoken about it throughout today. So let's say I want to implement a new habit of reading more consistently. So obviously I need to make that more specific. So my cue to make it obvious is every morning after I make my coffee. I make my coffee every morning after I drop my son at school. So every morning after making coffee, I'll read a book for 15 minutes on my balcony. So obviously one space, one rule. So my balcony, very quiet environment. It's upstairs. It's away from any noise. It's a good environment for reading. So that's my cue. Morning coffee, read 15 minutes on my balcony. My craving to make it attractive, I'm bundling it with coffee. I love coffee. I have coffee every day. So if I'm not reading, I'm not going to get that coffee. So already I'm sort of incentivized to do that. If I want to take it one step further, I could join a book club. And I know that people that I work with also read books, so I could do that simply internally to my work, get some good book recommendations, and it is also linked to my job progress. There is certain books that I need to read as a GM. Response to make it easy. So if I want to break it right down to the 2-minute rule, regardless of how hard my life gets, how busy work is, how full on my kids are, if I break it down to at least a 2-minute rule of reading 1 page per day, no matter what, no matter how busy I am, I make that coffee, I read a page, and if I need to get back to work, I get back to work. But reading the 1 page is my non-negotiable. And then I'll slowly build to that 15 minutes until I'm doing it consistently. I'll prime the environment. So I'll have my current book that I'm reading on the balcony or next to my coffee machine, ready to go each morning. And finally, I'm going to make it satisfying. I'm going to have a habit calendar because I'm incentivized by keeping streaks alive. Every 7 days that I read, I'm going to get a small reward. So that might be cash or KFC. And then for every book I complete...
One bad habit for a good habit, hey?
There you go. Every book I complete, I'm going to be able to purchase a new book. And again, breaking it down, 1 page is a win. Reading 1 page per day is a win. So yeah, that's my practical application of increasing my reading. I'll probably start very low level, maybe The Hungry Caterpillar, which I read to my son every night, just to enhance my reading skills as well.
Perfect. Yeah, and my one is the process that I follow to go to the gym. So implementation intentions, realistically, setting that time that you go. And mine is I'll go to the gym every day, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday after work. So there's not a specific time there because it's after work. So once I log off, I'm good to go. And so I habit stack it with, having my lunch, finishing work. That's my sign to switch off for the day, change mentality, go to the gym. So how I get the environment is the night before I'll lay out my gym clothes, shoes, pack my gym bag, get everything in there, and it's sitting right there. And so literally I can just get up, grab that, and go out the door, and it's all done. So it's really weird, the attractive side of it, how that temptation bundling. I don't really do much of the temptation bundling. It's more just around, I get to listen to music. It's like my time where I get to reset my focus and reset my brain. That's probably a big thing. But the culture side of it is really good. So I find gyms that are successful have really good personal trainers, have a really good culture inside the gym. So there's a lot of social motivation that I get from them. The visual motivation, so, how do I see it as I continue? It's, I'm into powerlifting, so it's all about keeping a tracker of my lifts. So I have an app which will show me what I did last time, what I'm doing now, and progress over time. And I just have in my mind what I want to achieve in the next competition. So I build that out as I go forward. Making it easy, already talked about this. Gym bag, she's right there, ready to go. Everything's ready to go. And in my app, I put my program in for the week on Sunday. So there's no I've got to input this, just reducing the amount of friction and making it easy for that environment. 2-minute rule, I'll always get changed my gym clothes, drive over the gym. I haven't really had to put in a 2-minute rule for this because I don't really need it. But if those days that I'm feeling really flat and crap and don't want to go, it's just get to the gym. And once you get there, no more being a little bitch anymore. You're in. That's it, right? And then satisfying. I don't really use much reinforcement. I guess probably the biggest thing is that I get to try and make reels to piss my coach off or make him laugh. Either way, I'm getting pretty creative with those at the moment, or trying to weird him out with song selections that I have. Tracking progress, do that in the app, also with the coach.
I think your reinforcement's your ability to intake calories.
Yeah, I mean, that's also true as well. And reinforcement of being able to lift more weights is a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
one.
Well, it's the competitions, right? At the end of the day,
Yeah,
and those
but you know
gains
that's
that
sort
you,
of long. That's long term reinforcement, which is really hard. And I did go through a phase where it was after competition. I'm like, man, it's a long time till I compete next, and you sort of get into this like lethargic routine. But I was able to kick myself out of that, which is nice. But yeah, never missing twice. If I miss a day, always make it up the next day. So if I don't get to the gym on Thursday, well, it looks like I'm going to the gym Friday and Saturday. You know, that sort of thing is an absolute must.
yeah. And I think it's important just to touch on. I know we're about to wrap up, but Abe and I have both given, I guess, personal examples for habits. This can also be implemented in work. So I did a test in Q1, I believe it was. So it was right after I read the book, and I went and tested setting goals for all of my employees based on processes rather than outcomes. So rather than close X amount of revenue per month, it was actually post on social media this many times. It was the actions that it would take to find and close customers. So call 10 customers a month. Go and post on social media. Those actions that actually lead to revenue generating. So, if you're a small company out there that wants to increase your brand awareness, do the 2-minute rule. Post
So I've talked
once
to
a day
someone
on
about
social media and things like
this
that.
exact thing is schedule in your routine during the week. If you're an individual contributor or a sole trader, you're a PT, you're in the gym, you want to start broadening your client base, you want to get more influence. Great. Schedule. Okay. Monday's a quiet day from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I'm going to film content from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. is quiet. I am now going to edit all of those from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Wednesday. And on Sunday, I'm going to go through and schedule all my posts for the week. Great. Then it's done. Consistently do that over time, and you will naturally just increase your follow count, increase your reach, and you'll achieve that goal. It's a system of film, edit, schedule, film, edit, schedule, film, edit, schedule, that constant system all the way through.
Yeah. And bringing it back to like a 2-minute rule, just film for 2 minutes a day. And then eventually, as you start building that habit, you're going to have all this content there that you can edit and you can start to post on the back end.
So one really interesting, I guess, real world example that I've seen is Lily Riley, who's a well-known powerlifter. She was in Animal Cage. She is an absolute beast, went through cancer, came out the other side, breaking records. And she has a fear of public speaking and has turned down podcast opportunities because she has a fear of public speaking. So what she's doing now is she set a goal for herself to speak every day on an Instagram story, and literally is pretty funny. The other day, she went to start an Instagram story, hit record, the phone fell down. She picked the phone up, sort of just looked shockingly at the camera, and then hit stop, and then that was it. And it just made me laugh. Like, so anxious, right? But she set herself the goal of just having this habit of just for doing it every day to get out of that comfort zone and make it a habit. And I think that's really important for people, is just that's 2 minutes, right? That is the 2 minutes. She's putting that into action. And the phone fell over. She's like, oh, well, that's it for today.
Hey, tick it off. Check it off.
Yeah, exactly. It's done.
Hit the goal. But yeah, it's been a good one. Send her my way, mate. I'll get her on the confident public speaking route.
Yeah, it matches up your way. She's in Brisbane. There you go. Teach her how to public speak.
She can teach me how to lift as well.
All right. Yeah, but absolutely. I think the biggest thing there is business-wise is think about the system that you need to put in place to achieve the goal that you want to achieve, and just make sure you use all of those techniques that we talked about, those 4 laws of building a habit. Look at James Clear, read the book, great book, and we'll just set you on the right path. But once again, people are pretty slack on socials. The only 2 responses we got was Charlotte, your wife, making some snide remark how she wants fame and wants to be on the podcast. and I said, sorry, you're not famous enough to be on the podcast. So she didn't really like that too much.
She's been planning a accidental walk-in while we're recording, just to
I'm
get
sure
her
she
face
has.
out there. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm here. Allow me to get on the microphone quickly and tell you some things.
Oh, you talk about psychology.
Yeah, but she wanted to get on here as a psychologist. Love it dearly. I don't think everyone's ready for that just yet.
Nah.
The other response we got was from Andre, which I thought was really good. I asked for questions that you have on habits or experiences, and his experience was motivation is a result of action, not the cause of it. In other words, just start doing, which I think is fantastic advice for everyone out there. And that's that 2-minute rule. That's exactly what it is. It's just getting in there and just taking action, and you'll get motivation.
And I'm going to start running again. I haven't been running for a very long time, so
look out.
Look at me.
Sunshine's Coast newest marathon runner.
Identifying as a runner, even though I'm about to move into the forwards for rugby. I'm going to be the fittest skinny forward on the Sunshine Coast. So
it's beautiful.
It's been spoken now, so our audience can hold me to account.
All right, so I propose a new segment at the beginning of every podcast is Andrew tells us his 5K splits for the week.
No. Hey, there's no goals. It's just about running.
No, we're now your accountability buddies, okay? We're going to keep you accountable by you telling us your progress every week.
It's not outcome-based. It's systems-based.
All right,
so I will run.
How many times are you running? When are you running?
I'm going to run 5 times a week.
Every day? 5 times a week? When?
After I finish work.
Okay.
So every day except Tuesday, Thursdays, which is when I train for rugby, I will run before lunch, after work. So I don't eat.
What you should do
I don't eat lunch
is you should post an update every week on socials on the Beers and Business. So everyone know how you're going with your habit.
You know who actually did this? So Dylan Conway actually did this. We spoke to him last week. He isn't the fittest bloke. He is now because he started it with his charity. They just ran 100 kilometers in May challenge, but he started it last year where he would just run every day, no matter what. He would run. Didn't matter if it was 100 meters, 500 meters, 10 kilometers. He would run every day, and he did it for 2 or 3 months, and he was pretty quick by the end of it. So I want to bring up my fitness again. I'm getting fitter, playing rugby again. So I want to get to a position where I can play in the forward pack in the middle of the field for 80 minutes without breaking a sweat, which I used to be able to do a long time ago.
Yeah, nice. That's good. Love it. You put me on the spot. I don't have any habits locked and loaded, so
you've got enough habits, mate.
I don't want to just be like, oh, go to the gym 4 times a week because it's already a habit. That's cheating.
Drink gin every day for a week. No. You got plenty.
Develop a bad habit. Gamble $100 every day.
Yeah.
What's that? By like Tim, the blackjack.
Tim Nackey, blackjack every day. 1 cent for every follower of Beers and Business. There you
go. All right, let's wrap this one up. So, like and subscribe to our socials: Instagram, Facebook, super active, YouTube's where all our content is. We've got good reels on there. TikTok, Andrew still holds the keys for that. So as you can imagine, it's maybe you could build a habit, mate, of actually doing what you're supposed to do on TikTok and post videos of our podcast, mate. How does that sound? Is that a good habit?
It's really that could be your habit. That could be your habit
to manage all of the social media while you just go running.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Probably more successful anyway. But Beers and Business Pod, that's where you find us. Submit questions, topics, guests. Hey, if you want to recommend someone to get on the podcast, or if you're keen to get on the podcast, we're open to just having conversations about what you're doing right in business.
Give us some topics as well. Give us some topics.
Yeah. Yep. Weekly on YouTube, Tuesday, 10 a.m. every week. And tune in to the next episode of Beers and Business. Cheers.
Cheers.